Welcome back to Trots TV. It's time for 6 Things We've Learned. Robbie Morris has joined me. Robbie, you're back driving later this week?
Yeah, later this week I'll be back driving, so I'm looking forward to it. It's been a boring 3 weeks, but we're getting back into it.
Media career, the commitments will be on hold again. Let's have a chat about 6 things we've learned. We're going to go back and revisit the Miracle Mile on Saturday night. Great race. We go through the stats each and every year about barrier draws. Good barrier draws don't win you Miracle Miles, but bad barriers just cruel your chances. You have a look. All 6 winners now, no wider than 4. Yeah. The Miracle Miles that have been run here. Guaranteed and Terror to Love. Both of their runs on Saturday night were outstanding from bad draws. And I thought Gavin Lang's drive was pretty special too.
Yeah, that was one of my things. Gavin Lang's drive on Guaranteed it's funny thing racing. You can see where people say there's a fine line between a good and a bad drive, because Ricky May was going there 2 steps before Gavin went, oh, that's a good idea, got to duck in there when we're running a quick mile, and Gavin had the advantage and got to the spot first, and it was a peach of a drive.
Yeah, you expect that from those big race drivers, don't you? Like I think he is the Iceman, very cool, doesn't lose his head very often in a race, and that just showed the spot to be. He knew he had to get to the pegs and beat him to the punch. Very similar to what we saw, say, 12 months ago in the Miracle Mile when Jimmy Rattray just beat Justin Prentice to that 3-peg spot. Yep. You know, it was a calculating drive from Gavin, and in the end, he got the job done and was able to place. While we're talking on drivers, one of the things I learnt on Saturday night was that Dexter Dunn is an absolute gun. We've seen him in New Zealand dominate. He's won a Hunter Cup in Australia. He's won Breeders' Crowns, all of that. But he's so patient the other night. When Bowtide took off, all the talk during the week was stay with Bowtide, stalk him the whole way, and he showed a lot of class, and he was very, very measured. He let that horse go, he let Bowtide go, and he said, no, I'm going to come with a 1 run, and in the end it was a winning move. Yeah,
Dex is he's a really good guy. He's an all-around top bloke, Dex. He does everything right for the sport, and he's a credit to New Zealand racing, and his drive on Saturday night was just, once again, the best drive in the race.
I think you said last week, the last one to panic wins, and I reckon that was him on Saturday night.
I'm a firm believer of that, and I've sort of always drove my own horses like that. If you're the last one to panic, you generally win, and he's always the last one to panic, but he had a pretty hard mask there because Gavin Lang's always the last one to panic. So, but no, he drove him a treat.
He's media savvy. He's very professional. Keeps himself in good nick. He's an all-round professional. Hard to believe that when he came over with Andy and Kate Gath, he couldn't get a drive when he spent some time working for them.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of age and maturity, and it all comes with it. And look at him now.
What's another thing that you learned on Saturday night?
I just think the biggest thing I learned was Crandell Getty's training effort with Chris and me. Like, to hold him back last year when things were going so good, and it come to Inter-Dominion time, and he sort of stepped back and said, oh, he's sort of not real ready yet, and he give him 8 or 9 weeks. Like, not many, like he was 4 last year. When horses turn 4, not many horses go and have an 8-9 week spell midway through the season. And Cran said, nah, he's had enough. And he hadn't had enough. Like, looking at him racing, he was still racing at the top of his grade. Yeah. But Cran said, no, that's enough for him. Took him back, give him 8 or 9 weeks off. And he said, last year, I'm aiming him for the Miracle Mile and the Inter-Dominion next year. And so far, he's at 100% strike rate.
I spoke with him on Monday after the Miracle Mile, and he said, I said to knock Chris and me around a bit, and he said actually he was pretty quiet on Sunday. Yeah. And he said a lot quieter than he was after the New Zealand Cup and the free-for-all. So that run on Saturday night's knocked him around, but he said he might have jogged him on Monday for 20 minutes, and he said he was bouncing around again. He just took that 24 hours to get over it. So they have been, you're right, they've timed this. It has been, we have got one focus, and that's the Miracle Mile. They're going to go to Cranbourne. There was some talk that he wouldn't. They're going to go to Cranbourne, and then they'll concentrate on taking him home and getting him ready for the Inter-Dominion. So
I think it just, like we said before with Dexter, a very patient drive, but I think a lot of credit's got to go to Cran for being a patient trainer. Like, it's easy, we all know ourselves, it's easy when you got a good horse to go, oh, there's this race around the corner, there's this race around the corner, but no, he's done it to a T, so full credit to him.
There was a scrimmage on the final corner, and as a result of that, Lauren Pinello got 5 weeks from the stewards. be, not talking about it. It's like the elephant in the room. It's got to be spoken about after what happened last year in the Inter-Dominion. Look, Lauren's a very talented driver, very young driver, and probably doesn't obviously have the experience of guys like Gavin Lang and Ricky May. But I think, during this 5 weeks off, I know Lauren learned a lot when she was out after the Inter-Dominion, but I just hope that she's remembering this when she drives in these big races, because it's not a great look for the industry. It wasn't a great look on Saturday night. I know Lauren would be pretty dirty on herself on what she did. So that was definitely a talking point. I think 5 weeks she probably got off on the lighter side after what had happened in the Inter-Dominion, only her last big race drive. So my thoughts on that, probably a little bit light, but I'm sure Lauren will be back bigger and better in the future. What's another thing you learnt?
I just think I learnt that the sport's definitely going forward. You got these nice horses coming through. Guaranteed's one to just put in your black book. He's a star, but all of Menangle, the whole directors picking the race, everyone sort of went, oh, they're wrong. No, Franco Nelson. The run of Terror to Love, if he draws anywhere else bar barrier 10 where he drew, he goes very close. You put him in barrier 1 or 2 and he just sits there and stalks them. You don't make up the ground he made up going 49, going wide. So I think full credit to Bruce and David Watson and all the directors, because they've put the field together. They got quite a little bit of knocks about it, and they proved to be right. If Terror to Love had any luck in the barrier draws, he shakes them something chronic.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I did an interview with Bruce on Monday about the whole meeting, and I said I disagreed with the decision to put Terror to Love in. They were right. The directors were right in inviting him. His run on Saturday night, clearly his best. On the track, I know he's run a couple of seconds in a Miracle Mile and a Cordina Sprint, but that run on Saturday night, time was there, did a good job. He was so far off them after they'd gone 250 metres. So you mentioned Guaranteed as well. He's going to be an absolute star at Menangle. I think, Chris and me were obviously talking about Inter-Dominion, but, if it was Harold Park's Miracle Mile over the 1760 instead of the 1609, he wins, because he was finishing 2 to their 1. And he's going to be an absolute star. So that's Guaranteed. And Chris and me, it was a fantastic night of racing on Saturday night. 6 things we've learned.
This program was brought to you by Harness Racing New South Wales and the New South Wales Harness Racing Club. This has been a Harbour Television production.